The laughter started before he even reached the table. It wasn't loud at first. Just the kind of muffled chuckle people try to hide behind their wine glasses. But he heard it. He always did. Because when you've spent your whole life being watched like a mistake waiting to happen, your ears learn to catch even the smallest cruelty. Jacob froze for half a second, his hand tightening around hers. Beside him, Olivia didn't react. She couldn't hear it. Her fingers rested gently against his arm, trusting, steady, unaware of the sharpness floating in the air around them. And for a brief moment, Jacob wondered something painful. What if you were him? What if every step you took with someone you loved was silently judged? Would you still walk forward, or would you let go just to make the world more comfortable? He didn't let go. The restaurant in downtown Chicago glowed with soft amber lights, the kind that made everything feel warmer than it really was. Jacob had chosen it carefully. He had spent 2 weeks saving for this night, skipping lunches, working overtime shifts at the warehouse, his back aching and hands blistered. Olivia didn't know. She never knew about the sacrifices. She only knew the way he smiled at her. And that smile was enough. They sat down at the small table by the window, the city lights flickering behind them like distant stars. Olivia's blue dress shimmered softly, her blonde hair pulled into a loose ponytail, her eyes bright and curious. She looked at him, waiting. He signed slowly, carefully, the way he always did when he wanted every word to matter. "You look beautiful tonight." Her face lit up, her hands moving quickly in response, her smile wide and genuine. "Only because you're here." That was when the laughter behind them grew louder. 2 men sat at a nearby table, their expensive watches gleaming, their phones raised casually as if they were checking messages. But Jacob knew. He had seen that look before. The smirk. The quiet cruelty disguised as amusement. One of them leaned toward the other, whispering something, and they both laughed again. Jacob looked down at the table, his jaw tightening. This wasn't new. It never was. He remembered the first time he met Olivia 2 years ago at a public library. She had been struggling to reach a book on the top shelf, her frustration visible but silent. He had helped her, and when she tried to thank him, her hands moved instead of her voice. He didn't understand at first. But he stayed. He learned. Night after night, after 10-hour shifts at the warehouse, he sat in his small apartment watching videos, practicing signs, fumbling, failing, trying again. His fingers cramped, his confidence broke, but he kept going. Because she was worth understanding. Because she was worth everything. Back at the restaurant, Olivia noticed his expression change. Her smile faded slightly, her brows knitting together with concern. She reached across the table and touched his hand. "What's wrong?" He hesitated. How could he explain cruelty she couldn't hear? Before he could answer, one of the men behind them stood up. He walked casually toward their table, his grin wide, false, sharp. He gestured awkwardly with his hands, mimicking broken, exaggerated movements, mocking the language he clearly didn't respect. Jacob felt something inside him crack. Not anger. Not yet. Something deeper. Something older. He remembered being 10 years old, standing beside his younger brother Matthew, who had been born deaf. He remembered the way kids laughed at Matthew in school, the way teachers spoke over him, around him, never to him. He remembered Matthew coming home one day, sitting on the edge of his bed, his small shoulders trembling as silent tears fell. Jacob had promised him something that day. "I'll always stand beside you." But Matthew had died at 17 in a car accident caused by a drunk driver. And Jacob never got to keep that promise long enough. Until Olivia. The man in front of them continued his mocking gestures, his friends watching from their table, recording, smiling, waiting for a reaction. Waiting for a show. Jacob slowly stood up. His heart pounded, but his hands remained steady. He looked directly into the man's eyes, not with hatred, but with something far more unsettling. Calm. Then he began to sign. His movements were smooth, deliberate, precise. His face carried emotion, weight, meaning. The man blinked, confused. Jacob reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He opened a text app and typed something quickly, then turned the screen toward the man. It read, "This is how she hears the world. Through eyes. Through heart. Through patience. Through people who care enough to try." The man's grin faded slightly. Jacob typed again. "You're laughing at something beautiful because you never learned how to see it?" The room grew quieter. People had begun to notice. The man shifted uncomfortably.